SharePoint Designer 2010 is a powerful application used to build custom sites and solutions on SharePoint 2010, but if not used carefully, it can create some issues for your SharePoint deployment. To manage how SharePoint Designer is used in your organization, use the SharePoint Designer Settings page. But before we get into these settings, let's look at the kinds of SharePoint Designer tasks you'll want to manage. Editing site pages in advanced mode gives users complete access to every part of the page. Customizing master pages and page layouts changes the look of multiple SharePoint sites at once. Editing files directly in the website URL structure gives users access to every file on the site. There are consequences to these tasks, though. Editing pages in advanced mode detaches pages from their site definition, which can cause problems during future upgrades. If master pages and page layouts are customized by too many people, you can have inconsistent sites and can potentially break sites. And editing files directly in the site URL structure can result in altering or removing support files required by SharePoint. So let's go through these tasks by first opening my site in the browser, then using the Site Actions menu to open my site in SharePoint Designer. With SharePoint Designer open, I'll go to my site pages. Then I'll go to my home page. Now instead of editing the page in the default normal mode of page editing, I'm going to choose Advanced mode so that I have complete access to all parts of the page. In Advanced mode, I can edit areas within the supplied web part zones or outside of those zones. In this case, I'll just replace the default picture on the page with a smaller custom picture of mine. Then I'll resize the body of the page to make better use of this space. Again, I'm just making small changes in this example. But when I click Save, I get this warning that I'm about to detach the page from its site definition. Now this won't create issues for me immediately, but since the new page overrides the content in the site definition, this page won't be recognized the next time the server is updated or upgraded to a new version. The next task I'll demonstrate is customizing the master page of my site so that it has a unique look. I'll open the v4.master from the summary page. Go to the top here and remove the default logo and replace it with my own custom logo that's stored in my Site Assets library. Then I change the color of the ribbon by opening the associated style and modifying that style. I'll change it to green to match my logo. Now this might look good on this site, but it takes away the consistent corporate brand across all other sites, so not everyone should be editing this file. Another risk in master pages is that you can easily alter or delete a required content region needed to render content. In this case, if I mistakenly delete the Calendar Navigator placeholder, I'll break the calendar feature wherever it's used on this site and other sites sharing the same master page. A similar issue exists with page layouts, which control the look and feel of publishing pages. If I change the layout of fields, I'll end up with inconsistent page designs, and I can potentially break these pages if I delete the wrong field. The last task I'll demonstrate is how I can work in my website URL structure to access any file on my site. In this case, I'll open my task list. I see a bunch of files, and I could delete this XSN file without realizing it's the InfoPath form template used by this list. In another example, I might open Shared Documents and delete this Word template without realizing it's being used by the documents in this library. These could be common mistakes when working in your site URL structure directly. You can better manage and prevent these types of tasks using the SharePoint Designer Settings page, which lets you disable SharePoint Designer completely so that users cannot use it to open and edit sites, prevent site pages from being detached by disabling the advanced page editing mode in SharePoint Designer, prevent editing of master pages and page layouts by disabling them in SharePoint Designer, and preventing access to the website URL structure by hiding the All Files option in SharePoint Designer. There are two places where you can manage SharePoint Designer like this: in Central Administration and in Site Collection Administration. In Central Administration, your settings apply at the web application level for all Site Collection Administrators on down. On the Site Collection Administration page, your settings apply at the Site Collection level for all designers and owners in your organization. We'll look at both pages, but let's start with Central Administration, where we choose General Application Settings and Configure SharePoint Designer. In this example, I'm going to enable all SharePoint Designer settings at the application level for all site collection administrators. I enable SharePoint Designer, allow detaching pages, master pages and page layouts, and the site URL structure, and OK. From here, I'm going to more tightly manage SharePoint Designer at the site collection level for designers and owners. So I go to the site collection, choose Site Settings, and under Site Collection Administration, I choose SharePoint Designer Settings. At this level, I'll allow SharePoint Designer to be used, but I'm going to disable detaching pages, editing master pages and page layouts, and working with the website structure. And click OK. To see what this looks like, let's log out as our Site Collection Administrator and log back in as one of our designers. In this case, Casey. I'll go back to my site and choose SharePoint Designer from the Site Actions menu. When SharePoint Designer opens, we see that things look a little different. For starters, there are no master pages or page layouts in the navigation pane. We also notice there's no All Files option in the navigation pane, preventing us from working with files directly in the site structure. As to detaching pages, if I open one of my site pages like the home page, then choose Edit File, I see that I can only edit in normal mode because advanced mode is disabled. Editing the page in normal mode means that I must work within the web part zones on the page, and I won't detach the page from the site definition. This safe page editing experience is similar to customizing pages in the browser. So I close out of SharePoint Designer and return to the Site Collection Administration page, logged in as our Collection Administrator. I go back to the SharePoint Designer Settings page, and this time I completely disable SharePoint Designer for the collection. I log out as the administrator, and I log back in as our designer, Casey, to see the results of disabling SharePoint Designer altogether. I go to the Site Actions menu, and I choose SharePoint Designer. But this time I get a message that says SharePoint Designer is not allowed on the site and to contact my administrator. This prevents me from opening or editing the site in SharePoint Designer. Learn more about SharePoint Designer on these sites, including how to add and remove users to and from the Designers Group, Owners Group, and Site Collection Administrators for your sites.